The conclusion of the wrestling season brings a new round of state champions as we continue our Chatting with the Champs series with a pair of Bishop Ryan Lions taking home the top prize at state in their weight classes at the Fargo Dome. Bishop Ryan's Coy Okeson was wrestling for more than just himself and his team this season, taking home a second straight state title at the 285-pound weight class, doing so in honor of his late brother Corbin.
It meant a lot to me. I'm just glad I could do it for my brother and go out and wrestle how I know I can wrestle.
If you've ever seen, obviously like Corbin at the tournaments previously with Coy, he was always there in his corner, or even with Cade Wrestling, Corbin was, always cheering him on. So not having him there was definitely different for him and obviously a driving factor. The NDSU football signee knocked off back-to-back state champion and future college teammate AJ Hines in 2023, coming into this year unfazed by the pressure to repeat.
It's always a little harder being the favorite. I don't know, everybody just is out to get you, and it's hard to pull away sometimes, but doing my best.
He was very cool, calm, and collected kind of throughout the whole year. He's very, I would say, like a student of the sport. He always watches matches. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a kid he's wrestled 5 times or a kid he's never wrestled. He's always watching to kind of pick up a little bit of intel on them. And I never really got the notion that he was nervous or anything before his matches. Okeson made it to a second straight state crown while also playing his first season of high school basketball for the Lions.
Well, I always put wrestling first while I was in season for wrestling. I usually go to full wrestling, half basketball, and it just made me better, I think, more in shape. Helped me a lot.
And this win marks the end of his time on the mat, helping him go out in style.
It's kind of like a cherry on top, like icing on the cake. Just getting it done, it's over with. When
you just kind of looking at Coy, you can just tell he's, built for athletics as it comes. And he's worked really hard to get to where he is. And I think that's just kind of a great way to cap off his career. I mean, there's very few people I can remember watching that had as dominant of a year as he did this year.
But he's not the only state champion from Bishop Ryan, as Drew Zwak capped off an unbeaten season against North Dakota opponents, beating South Border's Jace Nitschke in the title match at 172 pounds, following a similar path to Okeson after previously finishing second at state earlier in his career.
This was the first time I knew I had a good shot at it. I went to the finals my freshman year, but it was against a 5-timer, so I knew it was going to be a tall task. But coming into this year, I knew I had a really good shot, but it didn't come without hard work. It's really tough to be up there and work that hard, and see it finally pay off is just great.
Honestly, it's similar to like Coy. Like before getting their state titles, they both have had a runner-up finish, and I think that's a huge motivational factor. So having that second place finish, being so close to reaching that top of the podium, it makes you work just a little bit harder. And I can honestly say that between those two kids, I don't think there's kids that worked nearly as hard as they did.
The junior looks to continue in Okeson's footsteps again next season and become a 2-time state champ.
Same thing as this year. I mean, I'm going to go into it like I didn't win last year because it's just going to be another one to add, and it's going to be the same mentality. Keep coming into the wrestling room with the same mindset. Like, I'm going to go back there and win another one.
And this team was led by first-year head coach Connor Ledoux, helping the Lions to a top 10 finish as a team in the individual tournament, with a roster listing just 14 total wrestlers.
We historically have had more kids kind of in the program. I remember when I was wrestling several years ago, we'd kind of hover around that 20 to 25 mark, and now you have maybe a dozen kids if everybody's there on a good day, probably looking more so around 8. Obviously there's pros and cons. As far as being like a dual team, you're not going to win very many duels, if any, not being able to fill even half a lineup on some of those days. But the other factor that was nice with it is there's a lot more individual work that you're able to do. You're able to take a kid specifically, work on things that they need to work on or that you're watching, be a little bit more analytical with them, and help them make a final push those last few months.
Now, you'll want to stay tuned for upcoming editions of After the Whistle. We plan on rolling through some more of our Chatting with the Champs series as we look back on the winter sports season.